This is the 2023 Ford Super Duty, the most connected, most powerful, most impressive, most Super Dutyest built Ford tough truck ever. There is a lot of stuff here that is going to make your life better if you buy a big heavy duty truck and tow a lot or go on long drives. First off, the interior. This is mostly taken from the new F-150. What is new, heads-up display, and it is actually incredibly helpful, and it changes depending on the drive mode, the direction of our next turn and how far away it is, the current speed I'm going, the speed limit, and the outside temperature. And then if I go and turn on cruise control, it'll show me that it can see the lane lines on the side of the road and actually says, okay, I'm helping you steer now and I have active steering assist. Now it shows all that on the HUD, which is actually pretty nice. The thing about Super Duties is they're always being used to tow. 90% of Super Duty owners tow at least once a month, and many of them tow far more often than that. When you're towing, especially on the highway, there's a lot of stuff to focus on. You have to look in your mirrors, you have to look ahead of you, you have to think further ahead. There's a lot going on. And so having a big heads-up display floating in front of you with all the information that you need does make life a bit easier. And it kind of makes me wonder, why did it take so long to get a heads-up display in a truck? It's not in F-150 yet, so it's in Super Duty first, and then I'll come to the F-150. That's really cool. That's one of the big upgrades that isn't already in an F-150 or something like that. But one of the biggest differences between the F-150 and the Super Duty is where the shifter is. In the F-150, it sits here, and you may know you can press a button and it will fold itself into the thing and then give you like a nice little workspace. Instead, you get a column shifter. Now, Ford said, oh, our Super Duty customers want a column shifter. I'm sure they do, but there's F-150 customers that want a column shifter too, and they don't have one. I think it may be for plowing. And so if you've never plowed, you are in drive and then you click this up into reverse and you back up and then you put it back into drive again. It's a lot easier to do that here than maybe in the shift. I don't know. Down here, you have all sorts of room for things, room for activities down here. And so you have this lovely sliding thing, right? This is a King Ranch. So this is a very nice, luxurious, very expensive pickup truck. And it has all kinds of like pretty designs and patterns. This is wood and it's got the King Ranch logo. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna push that up there out of the way and then you're gonna leave it. You're gonna leave it open and you're never gonna close it again. Down there, there's a phone charger and there's a bin and it's got a little rubber lining that you can pull out if you make a mess in there or whatever. You got two USB ports, USB-A, USB-C. Here, you have another bin that you can put stuff in, and you can actually, there's little slots you can put like pens or something in there. That's kind of neat. Then you have this thing, and I ended up writing an article about this that went viral and got a million readers for The Verge, and Ford actually had to issue a press release about it the next day because it was such a smash hit and they hadn't thought to call it out, which is kind of fun. So over here, right on the left-hand side, you've got a bin. You can put stuff. You put your wallet, you put your phone, you put your keys, put whatever there on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you have double cup holder here. But what if you want more cup holders? 2 clearly isn't enough. And then you've got 2 more back here. So you have 6, right? But what if you need more up here? If you're working on a construction site, say, you got to go get drinks for all the guys. So what you do is you have your 2 cup holders right here, and then this slides over and gives you 2 more cup holders. So it's a quad-barreled cup holder. And this seems like a little thing, right? But a lot of the time, you'll just want to have a bin to put stuff in. You know, you could do your drive-through and you could put your Chick-fil-A in there or something. And then sometimes you're going to want to be able to have more cup holders. So that slides right over and you get it. That's cool. This is a really useful feature. Then you got the 2 cup holders back here. So you got 6 right here if you want them. Then you got more in the door. There's just cup holders everywhere. This thing opens up. It actually has a lock right here. So it's sort of like a glove box lock, right? It's not going to keep anybody out who's really determined. And then this thing is actually wide enough you can put full-size file folders in here and store stuff. And there's a ton of room in here. Huge center console. Couple more notes about the interior. 12-volt power adapter there. You got a real home plug here so you can plug in your computer or whatever. You have 2 storage things there. So you got one up top and then you got a full-size glove box down the bottom. The reason I like these full-size pickup trucks so much is there is places for everything. There is so much room in here. It's fantastic. Then you got the back where the seat can fold all the way up and you got a totally flat floor you can load stuff in. You can actually fit like a full-size dog crate back there on the flat floor and it works great. Tons of room. tons of room in the back seats, 4 adults super comfortably. It's a very big truck. Other things that are very big is the truck itself is enormous. And so as we're driving along, there's cameras all over the place. We've got 1 camera in the front. We have 2 cameras in each wing mirror. Then you've got 2 more in the back. And the back ones are especially interesting. So there's a backup camera. Every car sold today is required to have a backup camera. In every pickup truck, if you put the tailgate down, your backup camera looks at the ground. It doesn't actually help you do anything. Doesn't help you see, it's useless. This one, however, has 2 backup cameras. One looks down at the ground, and then when the tailgate is open, the other camera is now looking back. Normally it's looking like straight up when the thing is closed, right? So it opens and it looks out the back. Whether the tailgate is open or closed, you still have a backup camera. That's one of those, why didn't someone think of this first? Because that's brilliant, and that's useful every time, because a lot of times you back up, whether you're gonna be like loading stuff in, and if you have a lot of cargo and you have that tailgate down, you can't see very well. It also has the ultrasonic sensors so that your parking sensors work as well with the tailgate down. Fantastic. That is really, really cool. And that is one of the most technologically advanced blah, blah, blahs about this truck. And that is only the beginning. I'd mentioned it briefly before. Adaptive cruise control, which is great, and that works while towing as well. When you put it into tow mode, it will change some things. It'll make it, you know, have a little bit more following distance, stuff like that. But it also does active lane centering. So if I take my hands off the wheel, it will steer and keep the truck within the lanes. Now, this is not a hands-off system like Blue Cruise or Super Cruise. I am supposed to keep my hands on the wheel, but it is good enough that you don't necessarily have to keep your hands on the wheel all the time. It's going to monitor you, and it's going to say, okay, you need to add a little bit of torque to the wheel every once in a while to prove that you're still paying attention. But for the most part, if you have good lane lines, it can assist you in steering. We'll say that. And it does an excellent job of it. So these lane lines are painted pretty well. Up on the heads-up display as well, it shows me, okay, yep, I see that lane line, I see that lane line, I'm gonna help you steer. For a big truck like this, to help you drive in the center of the lane makes life a lot easier, especially on long drives and with a trailer. It's not to drive for you, but it's there to be an assist. This has been in the F-150 for a few years, I think since 2021. One thing that's not here is there's no Blue Cruise. So the hands-off feature where I can just sit here and drive along and let the car steer for me without touching the wheel at all, we do not have that. No Blue Cruise, but it does have the lane keep assist, and okay, fine. Ford loves the word Pro. Pro Trailer Backup Assist, this is pretty cool. You put a sticker on the hitch of your trailer, and the camera can see the hitch, and what it'll do is it knows how to drive backwards. I don't know how many of you have never towed before, but it can be a little complicated to wrap your brain around because you turn the wheel to the left in order to make the back of the truck go that way, which makes the trailer go to the right, and think of it as steering the back of the trailer. If you haven't towed a lot, it's actually really hard. And I think for a lot of truck guys, that's part of the process of owning a truck is learning how to back up. And it's, oh, I'm a real man because I know how to back up, which is fine. But I see a lot of videos on TikTok of guys trying to back up to tow their boat or whatever and ending up with their boat in the lake. So maybe it's not that easy. Work smarter, not harder. Why? Who wants to work that hard? Backing up. Forget that. It's great to be able to back up a truck, but this makes life a lot easier. Then there is the Pro Trailer Hitch Assist. It can be difficult to get the ball underneath the hitch of the trailer. And it's got to be just right. If you're an inch or two off in any direction, pull it forward, back up again, forget all that. This not only has all these cameras, so it can show you on the screen, number one, what you're lined up with in the back, but it's got a mode where you can line the truck up with the ball and the hitch, and it will automatically steer and use the brake and the gas to back you up right to the hitch and the ball, and it lines it all up, activates the emergency brake, and locks it into place so that you never have to stress about backing up again. This is like a silly thing because, oh, how hard can it be to back up? It's annoying, especially when you have to do it yourself. If you're really good and you're on flat ground and you have done it a million times, even then sometimes you get out and you're like, oh, I screwed this up, I gotta start over. Back up, get it lined up, you hold this button, and it lines it up for you automatically. Then you got a couple other neat features which are a little more niche On the higher end trims of the vehicle, it has a scale in the back, and so it uses the weight on the back suspension to figure out how much weight is over the axle. So number one, it can tell you payload in the back and tell you whether you're over your payload limit or not, or how much room you have, which is important for safety. And then it can also, you can tell it how much your trailer weighs, and it will tell you whether the hitch weight of the trailer is correct for the size of the trailer and how much it weighs. And this is all safety stuff. If you have, say, a flatbed trailer in the back and you're parking a vehicle or a skid steer or something on it, you want to have that located correctly on the trailer so that the correct amount of weight is over the axles and all that. And if it's too far back, it can be too light, it can let go, and it gives you control issues. And so using that, it can help you figure out whether your trailer is loaded properly, it can back it up to the hitch, it can back up the truck once the trailer's connected, all kinds of cool stuff. And then there are aftermarket cameras you can get to go inside the trailers. You can keep an eye on what's going on there. If you have a horse or something like that, you can see the horse on the screen. Backup camera on the back of the trailer, blind spot monitors, all kinds of stuff to make life easier. And I keep coming back to this because, oh, the truck guys are gonna say, oh, I don't need all that, I know how to drive a truck. Why make your life harder? Do you write a letter to people, or do you use email, or do you text message, or do you handwrite? I don't need stamps, I use Pony Express because it's always been good. No, you don't. You move on and you use fancy technology. What, are you gonna keep backing up while you're towing to like prove something to someone? Or are you gonna be like, hey, this is the easiest thing ever. I'm gonna turn this knob. Use the auto park, like, this is all great stuff. It's not to say that you shouldn't know how to back up a truck. You should, because at some point this could break, or the sticker gets worn off, or whatever. If you're just trying to like back your truck up into the thing, you don't have to think about it too much. Pro trailer backup, the hitch, the onboard scales, all of that tech is really cool. This does have a wireless 5G hotspot. It's not a 4G LTE anymore. A lot of people using these as their mobile office. Huge, full-length sunroof. Love that. So that is basically the inside and the majority of the tech. Then we have some new engines, two versions of the engine that's in here, which is turbo diesel. And then there is a high output turbo diesel that has had a bunch of components beefed up to mostly give it a lot more torque. So this one is just over 1,000 maximum torque, and then the high output one's like 1,200 foot-pounds of maximum torque. You can notice a significant amount of difference between the high output diesel and the regular one, which this is the regular one. If you tow a lot, I could see you'd want the high output one, or you just, I want the best. I would certainly buy the diesel unless you had some sort of a fleet related or some kind of reason that you would want the gasoline. But if you're gonna be towing a lot, you know, you want the diesel. If you don't know which one you want, this is probably not the truck for you, but get the diesel. On the outside, it looks like a Super Duty. They have not messed with success too much. Front grills are different depending on which trim you get. Let's see if I can remember them all. XL, XLT, Lariat, King Ranch, Platinum, Limited. And then you can add the Tremor pack on top of any of those. 35-inch tires, lifts it up a little bit, gives you a whole bunch of stuff like that. There is also a special XL Off-Road edition, which is the work truck, and that is aimed at mining or utility companies, things like that, that want to have the base work truck and want to have increased off-road capability because they aren't, you know, driving on forest trails and things like that, but did not need the full Tremor super off-road pack. And a lot of these are focused on fleet, think utility companies, construction, mining, fire service. They're everywhere. You look around and there's Ford Super Duties, and they have a huge chunk of that market. Their focus on fleet, it does show how much Ford knows their truck customers. They know exactly who is buying their truck. People are incredibly loyal in the truck market, and they will buy Super Duty after Super Duty after Super Duty, know exactly what they're going to get. And if things change that they don't like, they will be very vocal about it. And I'm sure there will be some folks here in the comments saying that I knew something wrong or whatever. I will be the first to admit that I am not a super knowledgeable truck guy. And actually, I'll put a link in the description below to my friend Tim's channel, Pickup Truck Talk, because he is a truck expert, and I saw him recording his YouTube video the same time I took off to record this one. So I'll put a link to his down below, and so you can watch that and get the truck guy's perspective. I am much more on the tech side, which is why I'm focused on all this other stuff. Here's a cool fleet thing. There's something called upfitting, which is, say you are a plow driver and you want to buy a new plow truck. So you buy your new F250 or F350, whatever, you take it to a company that installs plows. And so you've got your plow up front, and then maybe you have like a salt or sand spreader in the back. Those things need to be controlled somehow. And so you do have these switches up here, right? But one of the things it does is it allows them to connect into the computer here. And then you can set up a number of different parameters. If the thing is spreading salt or sand or whatever in the back, when you come to a stop, you don't want it to keep spreading sand because you stop at a red light and it's just launching it out the back. You don't want that. So you can program it so that the computer tells the salt spreader, here's how fast I'm going, and thus this is how much salt you should be spreading. You can have it set so that when the vehicle goes in reverse, it lifts up the plow blade, because you want the plow down when you're going forward, but not when you're going in reverse. You can program it to turn on your strobe lights if you're in construction, or have buttons on the screen to turn on the strobe lights instead of needing to flip a switch, or have this switch turn on 6 different strobe lights rather than 1, or to turn on an auxiliary beeper when you're backing up. It's infinitely powerful, and you can think of a whole bunch of different scenarios that it would be useful. Another one, you could have a bucket crane on the back, and you could say the bucket can't be deployed if the parking brake isn't on. Okay, that makes total sense, right? If you put it in, it will not go into drive if the bucket is deployed. You can do all sorts of things like that to make life easier and safer, and just have a whole series of buttons up there that is super niche, and it really only is necessary if you're fleet and you're getting upfit. But it shows the focus that Ford has on their vehicles, because Super Duties in particular are used for work. And so if you are working and your truck is down, that is costing you money. And the longer your truck is down, the more money it costs you, and people get pissed. And it's not that you can just swap out another one, because if you've got a ton of gear and equipment and whatever in the back of your truck, you can't just swap it out. They have telemetry, part of the Ford Pro package. This can talk to your dealer and can say, hey, I have this upcoming service, and they can schedule it for you. They have mobile service vans. They have all sorts of stuff to keep your truck running. And if you want to know more about Ford Pro, I'll put a link down below to my Ford e-Transit, the electric transit van video, where I talked a lot about Ford Pro and all the work they're doing there to help out anyone who has multiple vehicles. And you can track where they are, you can track location, you can set maximum speed, you can check the maintenance and fuel economy and all kinds of stuff. That is a not comprehensive, but still pretty detailed look at the new 2023 Ford Super Duty. I love this truck. I like the King Ranch edition. I like all the leather and everything. The heads-up display is fantastic. That is a very good reason to buy this truck just on its own. The tech is really cool. If you don't tow a lot, or you're gonna tow more or whatever, it's still really useful. If you've towed every day of your life, it's still useful because it will save you time and money and aggravation, which is probably the biggest benefit to it. It's the new Super Duty. You know what you're gonna get. It's gonna be like the old one, only they're gonna change some stuff and make it better. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you wanna watch another video, you can click here to get that. Otherwise, drive safely.